What's up everyone, it's Benedict here, aka BHL Hudson. Welcome back to the BHL2 channel. Today we're talking about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, specifically the trailer that came out a little while ago. My apologies for being late on this, I was doing Christmas and New Year's and all this stuff. But the trailer came out around the time of Avatar 3, and it has been contentious to say the least. There's been a lot of online debate, specifically about the visuals of the film, the costumes, how it looks, the historical accuracy of it all. So today I wanted to talk about all of that. I have thoughts. Some of them might also be contentious. You might agree or disagree with a lot of them. We'll see. Let's get into it. First things first, in terms of the actual accuracy of these costumes, because a lot of stuff I've seen is that these costumes are not period appropriate. They should be, maybe I have a picture on the screen, this like yellow and red feathery looking, kind of crazy looking armor. And that would be more accurate. And people are mad about that it's sort of this stereotypical Greek, what you would imagine gladiator type stuff. First of all, I will say I cannot speak to the actual factual accuracy there. I did study Greek and Roman civilizations in college, so I feel like I have some. I did a whole thing on the Odyssey, so I feel like I can talk about the actual story. But we did focus more on the story, the themes, the characters. It's crossover with other old literature. So I'll just take your word for it. For the sake of this video, I will take all these people who are making this point. I'll take your word for it that this is not how these are supposed to look. Now, is that as big of a problem as people are making it? My take is generally, no, I don't think so. If you have a problem with this, obviously that's totally fine. And if you're a huge historical nerd, for historical accuracy and this kind of stuff, I sort of get it. But I think, and by the way, I will say to your credit, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he did say, well, Christopher Nolan is really up his own ass about realism, and and he went and filmed a boat for 2 weeks, and he got exactly the right, he did the practical effects, he did it exactly right or whatever. So for there to be a seemingly, according to these people, very egregious gap in the realism and the accuracy there, I can see how that could be an argument with Nolan especially, because he does sort of do that to himself a little bit. They do talk a lot about his realism and whatnot. However, I will say, I think people who say it's distracting, it's so distracting that this, this isn't period accurate or whatever, I kind of feel like it would be, for the large majority of people, more distracting if it was, the more accurate version. This does look like what people, when I read The Odyssey, this was vaguely what I was picturing in my head of what they would wear. This is the, stereotypical Greek armor that you would picture. You can totally argue it's inaccurate. You can totally argue it's maybe not that interesting. I think that's something we'll talk about as well. Nolan's, possible de-interestingifying certain things. But I think for the mainstream audience, I think you can understand why they would go with something that looks, familiar, and you hear the Odyssey and you see them in that armor. It kind of makes sense. I will just say I can't ignore this, and this happens with every film criticism on the internet, but a lot of the people who are making this criticism, when it becomes a big sort of mainstream bandwagon to hop on, I guarantee you none of these people, not none of them, I guarantee you some of these people do not actually give a shit about historical accuracy, have never even thought about what they wore back in, ancient Greek times, and just are like, oh my god, yeah, this movie sucks, it's so historically inaccurate. And then if you told them actually that's not true at all, that was just a fake post, they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, sure. There's 100% of bandwagon elements of this, I have to say, but I don't want to use that to discredit people who are mad about it genuinely, because I can't understand that. However, I will also say one argument that I've seen people get mad about, and this was another thing that I discussed with this friend of mine, is The Odyssey is not historical. It is not a work of nonfiction. It's obviously fiction. The debate there is that it takes place, around a real event, the Trojan War. And so it's it has a place in history. But it is also a movie or a story about, monsters and gods. And Odysseus is not as far as I know, a historical figure. He's a legend, like Hercules and this kind of stuff. So, I think that also, you can argue about, it has a specific point in time, but the fact that it is a, legendary story, I think also gives you a little more leeway, I'll just be honest. And and this is cherry-picking just one sort of stupid argument, so I grant that. But I saw some comparison that was, some comment that said, oh, imagine if there was, a World War II movie, and all of the soldiers were wearing ballet shoes and tutus. Wouldn't you think that was weird? And it's like, that's just, I mean, it's just dumb for a lot of reasons. First of all, World War II was so much more recently. We have so much more imagery from it, photos and film and everything. And that would be a lot more distracting than it looking like sort of, generally what you would imagine. Anyway, I just want to point that out because that comment annoyed me. And it had like a bunch of likes as well. But, yeah, and I do think it is Nolan's movie. Like, you can not like his style, and that's totally fair. But I think, like, I don't know, he's not making a documentary film. Like, it is a stylized film, and it is from a fictional story. I think you have a little bit of leeway to do your thing. Now, I will say, I don't love Nolan's style of making everything look sort of, I don't know, realistic, ironically, since people say it's not historically accurate. But, like, with the Batman movies, the realism, and with this, the, like, I don't know if it's a homogenous look, but just, it has, like, a Nolan-y look to it. It's the, yeah, even the fucking font, dude. This kind of tripped me out. The font is, like, the Oppenheimer font. And I was like, is this just, like, the Nolan font? Because Oppenheimer and the Odyssey are such different stories, I feel like you shouldn't just be like, and this is the next Nolan chapter of movies. It should be like, and this is a whole different thing. I know directors have styles, but the font specifically kind of weirded me out. But I can agree that I don't love Nolan's style for this. I don't think that means he shouldn't be allowed to do it. But I can see the argument if someone says it looks a little boring, like maybe it would be more interesting to do it another way. That also being said, the Odyssey has never really been adapted properly into film. I know they did the Ralph Fiennes one recently, whatever. But, like, I think it's fine to have sort of a more classic, mainstream, definitive adaptation before we start doing, like, the really accurate, and it's kind of like, Jurassic Park has dinosaurs, and actually the dinosaurs had feathers or whatever. Like, I think it makes sense to, maybe now they could do a feather dinosaur movie, but, like, to set the groundwork for this kind of thing, you want to do it in a way that's, like, very accessible. On specifics, I do not like Agamemnon's helmet, the fucking Batman Darth Vader looking helmet. And again, not because it's inaccurate. Like, I don't particularly care that much. I just think it looks kind of stupid. Like, the rest of the armor looks totally serviceable. It looks like Greek armor to me, fine. But and I went into the trailer a little bit because I'd seen some hate about it, and I was like, you know what? This is this is a stupid argument, whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, that Agamemnon helmet, that looks cool. That looks badass. And just the more times I've seen it, I'm like, actually, does look kind of fucking stupid. That does look kind of like, yeah, some, I don't know. I saw someone say it looked 3D printed. I can see that. It's too, like, big and smooth. It just doesn't look like it would actually be in the time period. It looks like a film costume or like someone trying really hard to make a cool film costume. So I can agree with that. I think, yeah, on this whole accuracy thing, I fall more into the camp of, like, as long as it's not, like, absurdly egregious and distracting, I don't think it's that big of a deal that it's inaccurate. But just if it looks stupid, regardless of accuracy or not, I think that hinders the movie a little bit. And I do think in that one shot, I will agree that that helmet does look a little stupid. And I will say, and now we transition a little bit into just my thoughts on the film in general, which, by the way, I think looks really good. I should preface this by saying that, because I'll talk about that at the end. I think it looks super cool. I haven't put out the video yet, but it's, not to spoil it, it'll be high up on my list of most anticipated films of 2026. But there are still some things I want to talk about, and specifically Agamemnon related. The casting of Benny Safdie as Agamemnon. First of all, I want to know whose naked photos does Benny Safdie have access to that he keeps getting cast in these, like, massive ensemble cast movies. Because I don't think Benny Safdie's a bad actor at all. He was very good in Good Time. He was, fine in Oppenheimer. He was good. But, like, I just keep seeing him pop up in these, like, A-list super stacked casts, and it's like, and Benny Safdie, like Oppenheimer, it's like, huge cast, all these great stars, and Benny Safdie. The Mario movie, it's like, wow, it's all these A-listers, Chris Pratt and Anya Taylor-Joy and whatever, and who's playing the villain? Of course, it's other A-lister, Benny Safdie, and then he's in this, and Agamemnon, I don't know what they're doing for this movie. He obviously does not have as big a role in the Odyssey as he does in the Iliad, but, still a pretty major character in the overall story of Odysseus. And it's like, oh yeah, of course it's Benny Safdie. And I don't know, I don't really have a problem. I don't have a problem with him, although he is currently also fighting the fraud allegations of him and his brother making, separate movies now, and his brother's was apparently much better than his. But I just think it's it's kind of odd. And I gotta say, I don't really see him as Agamemnon. I have problems with a lot of this cast. And I think him not being that name of an actor, and then walk with me here, because I feel like this will sound weird, but I feel like I'm going to make a good point here. Him not really being a name actor, I feel like also is another reason why he's not a great casting choice for Agamemnon. I feel like you can't do, like, this NPC celebrity casting for this movie that you've done, like Matt Damon, Odysseus, Tom Holland, Telemachus, Zendaya, Athena, Jon Bernthal, whatever. And then Agamemnon is Benny Safdie. Like, there's something to casting a big name actor, a prestigious actor, in a role that has authority in the film, where subconsciously, as the audience, we have associations with actors going into films. It adds a layer to their casting. I was thinking of examples of this. I feel like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in the X-Men movies. Those are like prestige actors in that kind of role, and they're in, the mentor, high up leader positions. The teachers in the professors in Harry Potter, they're all these acclaimed stage actors of British legend. Fucking Robert Redford in Winter Soldier. The, like, top boss of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, the highest up. You get, like, one of the greatest American actors of all time, this kind of shit. So I do think casting Benny Safdie, and he'll probably do a good performance, fair play to him. But I think it's just, like, Agamemnon, the leader of the Greeks, the king of the Greeks or whatever, him being an actor who is way lower down on, like, should be on a call sheet than, like, a Matt Damon or whatever, or these people who he would be leading and whatnot. I don't know. It's not the biggest problem, but I did just think of this because I was like, why is Benny Safdie and everything? And I was like, actually, and him not being, the biggest or greatest or most prestigious actor actually does kind of hinder this role a little bit. I'm sure he'll still be good. I'm not saying you have to get prestige actors for these roles, because the movie went the route of, like, we're just going to stack it with, all of these huge stars. Agamemnon being Benny Safdie. A little strange. That's my point here. On the cast in general, though, if I'm going to go in on this, because I think you could have gone another way where you could have had, less big name actors, and then, Benny Safdie's Agamemnon, sure, I guess, even though I don't really see him as that character, but whatever. But I've said this before, I just don't like Matt Damon as Odysseus and Tom Holland as Telemachus. That's not to say that they will not give good performances, but they just, to me, don't have the sauce that is needed for something this epic. Like, Matt Damon as an actor, to me, does not have, like, the gravity or the weight of, for the story of the Odyssey. I guess it's sort of hard to explain, but even like Jon Bernthal, I believe, is playing Menelaus, and I remember the first teaser came out, and it was only in cinemas with, like, Jurassic World or some shit, and it's Jon Bernthal talking to Tom Holland, and he's like, he's meant to be Menelaus, king of the Spartans, and he's just talking like Jon Bernthal. He's just doing his, like, let me tell you something, Telemachus. You think Odysseus was a cool guy? Hooray for Odysseus! And, like, he just sounds like Jon Bernthal doing another Jon Bernthal character, and it's just, I don't know. I was thinking of making a video of, like, who I would cast in the Odyssey. Maybe I'll do that closer to it. But especially Tom Holland, who I like fine. I think he's a solid actor. He just does not. I don't know. I don't feel like he has that thing to be, like, in this epic of a story in such a pivotal role as well. That's just my personal take. I honestly think Anne Hathaway is the best casting choice in this that I'm aware of. I haven't gone through the entire cast, but Anne Hathaway, that's a pretty decent pick for that character. I think she fits that better than these other characters do. That all being said, I feel like I've done some complaining here. I do want to say, I think it looks really, really fucking cool. I think for all the complaints you can have about Christopher Nolan, the accuracy or the look or whatever, or the sound, the way you can't hear anyone fucking talking in most of his movies, I think he makes really fucking good movies. I feel like there's, like, a circle of Nolan that you go on as you become a film fan, where it's like at the start you're like, Christopher Nolan's the greatest director of all time, he's so cool, and then you get, a little more cynical and you're like, you think Christopher Nolan, yeah, I remember my first time being a film fan, I like Christopher Nolan too. And then I feel like you come around again, you're like, actually, Nolan movies, they're quite good. Like, even something like Oppenheimer, where I feel like you can still acknowledge the Nolanisms in them. Like, I think the biggest thing I agree with on Nolan movies is that they take themselves very seriously often, but they are, like, kind of stupid, and so it makes the stupid parts stand out more. And in Oppenheimer, yeah, like, I think, like, there are lines that are stupid. The Albert Einstein shit is, like, objectively super goofy in this, like, serious movie. The way they handle that character in those scenes. But I think also then you can still acknowledge that, like, it's very well performed. It looks fantastic. There are really tense scenes. There are interesting themes explored. Like, yeah, that's where I generally fall in Nolan's movies. I can totally acknowledge that, like, yeah, some of the editing isn't very good, and at times, and you know, the music is overbearing, and yeah, they have silly moments when they think they're really deep. But at the same time, also there's excellent stuff here, and I guess I feel like that's how this film will turn out, as well. Yeah, just like the action does look pretty fucking incredible, and to get someone to adapt this epic of a story despite what he might do with the armor, I feel like Nolan is a good choice for, you know, he can do big scale fucking like tense action scenes that look great. That's another thing that I just like in terms of, you know, practical effects. Whenever the shot of them on the boat, like, you know, that shit's gonna go crazy. When they're on the boat and there's storms and monsters and whatever the fuck in the water, or, you know, the shot of them entering the cave and they're silhouetted or whatever, that looks fucking great. I know it looks dark, and I know Nolan's visuals are not always, you know, sometimes you can complain about them, but I think there's also some fucking great visuals that he pulls off. Obviously, I mean, you know, Interstellar, Inception, all this shit. So I'm very excited about that. And I have to say, as someone who, you know, has read the Odyssey, it's kind of fucking cool to see that shit on the screen, like the, you know, the Cyclops, and when they're talking to the dead Greek warriors and all this kind of shit. I'm pretty excited. In the Trojan horse, all this kind of stuff, like that, it will be pretty cool to see, not just like on film, but on like, you know, a prestigious director's film. You know what I mean? So yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts on the Odyssey trailer. In general, I'm very excited for it. I think it looks cool. I think there are definitely things you can pick apart about it, especially, you know, some of the armor. I feel like whatever side you fall in that debate, I'm not trying to fence sit this, but I feel like you'll be generally correct. Like, yeah, you could say it's inaccurate, and I think you could also say who fucking cares. Like, I think, you know, both sides could be right there. I fall on the who fucking cares really side, besides when it looks sort of stupid like the Agamemnon thing. But in general, I am very, very excited for this. Yeah, looks cool. So let me know your thoughts. I do think, I will say, this will be like a big, like all Nolan movies are, but it'll be a big like discussion movie of 2026. There'll be a lot of conversation about this film, which, you know, sometimes can be annoying, but also can be fun. So yeah, what do you think of the Odyssey trailer? How do you think it looks? Do you care about historical inaccuracies and not? What do you think of the casting? What do you think of what I talked about? All this stuff. Let me know down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video. Check out my main channel, BHL Hudson, my podcast, The Poorly Planned Podcast, my Instagram, BHL_Hudson, my Letterboxd, Real BHL Hudson, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. I don't normally hit that outro on the BHL2 channel, I don't think, but spicing it up in the new year, I guess. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.